Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to the KDE Office of Teaching and Learning webcast. I'm Amanda Ellis, and we're so glad you tuned in today to talk about the individual learning plan. We know that we've had some changes, and so I've brought along Rob McCoy. Good morning.
Good morning.
And she's going to give you some information on how to move forward in this transition. But before we get started, I just want to remind you to please tune in to the GoSoapbox.com. If you look down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the address as well as the access code. Again, just a reminder, it's app with app.gosoapbox, all one word, .com, and the access code is OTL. So Robin, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you help the field.
Perfect. Great. I'm excited today to get to talk about individual learning plans. There's been some massive changes. And here at the Kentucky Department of Education, we think it's good changes. And we'll talk through that today. First, let's talk about the definition of an ILP as defined in our regulation. So the Individual Learning Plan, or ILP, means a comprehensive framework for advising students in grades 6 through 12 to engage in coursework and activities that will best prepare them to both realize college and career success and become contributing members of communities. So in the regulation for minimum graduation requirements, it is required that each student have an individual learning plan. Starting with, I believe it was around the year 2006, the State Department bought a contract with Career Cruising that allowed all of us in the districts to utilize a tool called the ILP that allowed us to do a lot of advising through this tool. It was an outstanding tool. However, as of June 30th, 2018, we are ending our contract with Career Cruising and that tool. That is because it was a tool. It was an unintentional consequence, actually, that we began to rely on it pretty heavily to do all of the advising for us. And so we gathered feedback from the field that really said that you guys in the districts and in the schools wanted more flexibility in developing, advising, and career planning programs that really meet the individual needs of your students, the local needs, and that this tool was extremely helpful, but you really needed more flexibility in how you utilize these advising programs. And so our work going forward will allow this flexibility. There is not the requirement, so the progress bar really got us. If you're familiar with the ILP on Career Cruising, that progress bar really got us. Every kid to 100%. And then we lost the authenticity, the integrity of our advising programs through the use of the tool. That's not every district or every school. It's not to say anything bad about anyone, but it's just to say we are going process heavy for the future. And we want to really give you guys the ability to be innovative and grow and think about your processes for how you're advising students. Let me go back one slide too, because I want to hit this up as well. Is in your processes and as you begin planning for this, we know minimum graduation requirements are changing. We are going to really hone in on with a career focus, whether that career begins one day after graduation or 4 years after graduation or 8 years after graduation of high school. That career focus will be there. As you will begin to see the minimum graduation requirements that will begin to roll out and be presented to our board, you'll see that. And I think this advising, or actually I know that this advising will have to go hand in hand, and the processes you build will have to go hand in hand with those minimum graduation requirements to ensure success for our future students or our future employees within our workforce. So let's get to that student data. So let me back up just a second. As we know that Career Cruising and that ILP tool has our data. It has our student data, has our district data. So districts and schools can download district, school, and individual student data files for future use via the district and school portal for Career Cruising. KDE is trying to work with Career Cruising to see if there's any kind of mass upload that we can do for the state, but at this point that is not sure that we're going to be able to do that, and June 30th is your last access point. So I would not wait on the state to be working through that. I would make sure that there's a backup plan and that you're planning to download district and school data. So let's talk about what to look forward to in the future. For 1819, the advising program of each district and school has to continue. You have to incorporate the requirements that are outlined in the regulation for minimum graduation requirements, and that regulation is on the screen. For the future, though, over the next year, KDE will work to develop a framework to guide districts and schools in building comprehensive advising programs in the future. So in other words, we're taking a year to make sure that we build you a framework that's valid and holds integrity for what you really want to show us as a district and as a school, what you're doing in your district. This framework will be very flexible. It'll say, tell us what you're doing, and it'll incorporate a lot of things that you're already doing, but it's about being mindful of our processes, how we're reaching every student to get this work done. But for the 18-19 school year, advising still has to go on as we're working through that framework. We can't miss out on a year of kids and the opportunity to build skills into them. And so that's for you all to think through, what are we going to do for the year? And then what is our going forward, what does our future program look like? We encourage you to really think through this. Be creative. Think how you want to reach each and every one of your students. The vision behind this is about academic and career planning. We want to see engagement versus compliance, which is where we got to, unfortunately. It was a total unintended consequence of using Career Cruising's tool, because it actually was a very good tool if you dig in. But it's about engagement. It's about building human connections. We have to build those relationships with kids. We all say this, but this is a process to ensure it can happen. And it's about career exploration and development. So a district, let's talk about the requirements for the district and the school and the actual plan for the 18-19 school year and kind of where we're going in the future with this. So our current regulation says that a district is required to implement an advising and guidance process from grades 6 through 12. To provide support and develop and for the development and implementation of an individual learning plan for each student. It's about it's a requirement to develop a method to evaluate the effectiveness and results of the individual learning plan processes, which are included, so this is just coming right from the reg, indicators related to the status of the student in the 12 months following the date of graduation. This is our transition data collection requirement. So you could say that you can use that to help you in the effectiveness. Some of these things are already in place, and you just have to be intentional about how you're using that information. You can also do surveys if you wanted to send them to parents and students, either way. And for the next check mark, the input from students, parents, and school staff. That's on you to be creative and think through how you're going to do that. Next, the school requirements. A school is required to work cooperatively with feeder schools. I'm going to tell you, as I talk to counselors across our state, we're doing this. And if you're not, this is an opportunity for you to ensure that you're really digging in here, that we're reaching our feeder schools, whether it's from 5th grade to 6th grade or 8th grade to 9th grade, and to ensure that each student and parent receives information and advising regarding the relationship between education and career opportunities. We want to ensure that there is truly this education and career alignment and continuum of support. Each school is required to maintain each student's ILP. You can do this in a paper format, although it wouldn't be recommended in the 21st century, really an electronic format. Think about that. Think about, in the terms JCPS has rolled out, the digital backpack. That's an interesting concept. I think it's one that we need to take ownership of as we drive our schools. Think Google Drive. Think anything out there that you can really be creative with. Use information from the ILPs about students' needs for academic and elective courses to plan for academic and elective offerings. Now, the actual plans have to include career development and awareness, specifically to address the vocational studies academic expectations. The link there is provided, and they're actually referenced in the regulation there. The plan must be readily available to students and parents and reviewed annually. Think how digital would include your capacity to be able to do that. Set learning goals for the student based on academic and career interests, beginning with the 8th grade year. identify required academic courses, electives, extracurricular opportunities aligned with the student's post-secondary goals. It must begin by the end of the 6th grade year. It must focus on career exploration and related post-secondary education and training needs, and include information about financial planning for post-secondary education. Some resources for planning. So we know that we're throwing this out there. We're saying dig in, be innovative, be creative. And some of you might be thinking, we love this, but we need some support in doing this. So how do we dig in? So on this webpage and on our guidance document that we've sent out via the Monday message through the superintendents, but also on this webcast and on this listserv, these are some resources to dig into. I want to point out a couple ones that are just really neat. Junior Achievement is free to our schools. It has an interest inventory if you're interested, if you're thinking, how do I do this? It has some curriculum. KIA is a great website to use, the Kentucky Career Center, Chamber of Commerce. If we look at the ONET Interest Profiler and the ONET Online, those things are used by our workforce development in our state, and they're free. The Focused Talent and Focused Career opportunities are free for our districts. So you can pay for things, and there's a couple payment options or pay options on here, but really look for the free. Look at College Board's roadmap to careers. It's free, and the kids can develop online accounts there to build into their however you're going to do the digital portion of your ILP. There's lots of opportunities there. But also in that framework, it's not just about the plan that the student has, it's about the processes. So think about how you're running your operation preparation. Think about if you're doing a, the college application week. All those things can go into the framework. You're more than likely doing a lot of these things for your kids. In Kentucky, I see some school counselors doing amazing things with their students. And all of this can play into the framework that we will roll out for the 1920 school year. So then on here is some additional resources for planning. Again, some of them are payment options. You can elect to buy as a district Zello Career Cruising. You can. We would ask though, if you're going to buy a product or a tool, that it's the tool in which you're using, but the framework, the processes you're building in to build those human connections, because we know that's really what is key here, are those human connections, human networks. Naviance is a great program too that we see being utilized. It's a pay program if you were interested in paying for something. Navigo Prep is another one, curriculum based, and helps you make connections with business and industry. So again, and also we use the State of Washington Student Learning Plans. If you just want to check those out and say, what are other states doing? That's a great one to utilize. Wisconsin has a great one to just that we're using to kind of guide our planning. So those are some resources that you might dig into. I want to make a special note here is the Individual Learning Plan Addendum, the ILPA. This is a different requirement from the advising program, the ILP, as stated in our minimum graduation requirement, the regulation for that. The ILPA is used to support student transition to and from our alternative education programs. So the confusion comes in the fact that we use the term ILP and then ILPA, and they're thinking it's the same thing. No, they may have utilized the ILP to help support the ILPA, but the ILPA is actually something in Infinite Campus. And so that requirement still stands. It will continue to be required for every student enrolled in alternative schools per the regulation. As a reminder, it's an action plan that addresses the changed educational needs of a student based upon entry into or exit from an alternative education program. If you want more information about the ILPA, please review the KDE ILPA resources. Also, in alternative education branches, there are people that you can consult with. And that takes me to our last slide, our KDE contacts on this work. Sherri Clusky with the Alternative Learning Branch can really help through the ILPA process. I can help us as a school counseling program coordinator go through building your advising programs. April Pieper is another one, Jennifer Pusateri and Jared Sloan. We can all help you as you go through this process and helping you with resources and talking through some processes. But this is just a really good opportunity for your districts to dig in, take the opportunity. The state is telling you, be creative, be innovative, grow to really meet the needs of your students. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'll come back on in just a minute and answer some questions if we have any. At this point, I'm going to transition to Kathy White, who is going to have an announcement about EDS. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Robin. So June 30th is a big date. Many of you have already seen in the Commissioner's Monday Message and the Educator Development newsletter. It's been across Twitter. It's been in Kentucky Teacher that as of June 30th, the Educator Development Suite will be going away. And so we want to make sure that you know that both the full platform, all the tools, and all of your data will be completely unavailable after June 30th. So if you have input any observations, professional growth plans, anything that you're thinking that you might be using for teacher evaluations in the upcoming years, you need to log on now. Educators, principals, district folks who may have things in there for principals, log in now and make sure that you are printing them. There is no way to do a mass export of a school's data or a district's data. So you're going to log in and find the teachers or the principal's data and print those. There are quick reference cards available to guide you step by step through each one of those evidences that has been entered so that you can either save those locally electronically or that you can print those and put those in individual educators' files. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me here at the department, kathy.white@education.ky.gov, and I'd be happy to assist you with that. Amanda?
All right, we appreciate you tuning in today, but before we go, we have 5 things to know before you go. If you'll take a look at your screen here, just a few reminders is that the June Kentucky Board of Education meeting that took place last week is archived and available on Webcast. You can review Dr. Lewis's education policy priorities for KDE, specifically around achievement gaps, early learning, high school graduation requirement, the skills gap, post-secondary opportunities, reducing bureaucracy, and school program choice. There was a lot of great information during that webcast. It is going to be a little bit long, but you can certainly see the agenda items, and there are some really important topics that were discussed. We encourage you to be involved with that. Also, the initial certified evaluation training. All individuals conducting evaluations must complete the initial certified evaluation training required by 704 KAR 3370. This training is a 2-day training. Please follow the link in the PowerPoint once you receive it today to see the schedule for the upcoming events. Again, this is a little bit different this year because there is no cost to districts. Kentucky Department of Education has taken on that responsibility to reduce cost for our districts, but it is still required as it has been in the past. So I want to encourage you to access the link as soon as you receive that today. Also, the certified evaluation plans are due. The submission guidelines and supports are available. So in response to the evaluation statute and regulation, KRS 156557, school districts across Kentucky are making revisions to their certified evaluation plans and aligning them to the new Kentucky Framework for Personnel Evaluation. We want to encourage you to please visit the Certified Evaluation Planning webpage to learn about timeline considerations for your certified evaluation plan, directions on submitting, and resources that are available. Any questions you may have on that, please reach out to Christine Meisberger and Todd Davis. They are available and willing to answer your questions because there are some changes that need to be made. The new fiscal year 19 preschool partnership response for application or requests, excuse me, for application are out. The KDE is pleased to announce the funding opportunity designed to incentivize cooperative public-private partnerships between public school districts and child care providers to develop full-day high-quality programs for at-risk students. This was supported again for the next biennium, and so we are issuing those, looking for your applications. The incentive grant program represents an opportunity for school districts and child care providers to improve the quality services for communities, to increase the number of spots and the care that's provided. So the House Bill 200 provided this funding. And so the RFA is located on the KDE Competitive Grants webpage. If you search that on our webpage, you'll be able to find that. Question deadline for this grant is July 20th. And all questions must be sent to kderfp@education.ky.gov. And the actual application submission deadline is August 6th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is a very clear, defined timeline. So please prepare for that as you get closer to submission. And then the next OTL webcast will be announced at a different time. Other than that, I don't think we've had any questions, but if you do, please reach out to Robin McCoy or Sherri Clusky, right? And or Kathy White if you had questions about the EDS suite coming to an end. But otherwise, have a great week, and we'll see you soon.